My name is Sam Guilmard. I live in Milton Keynes in England. I call myself a creative developer, but really I spend most of my time in Spark AR just creating Instagram and Facebook filters. So I think I've been creating filters for maybe 3 to 4 years now. Um, I actually started making AR things in university. I was studying games programming, and in my final year, I did a project all around AR, where basically I made an AR board game where you could scan an image target, and then you would have your actual counters and your players move once you rolled these virtual dice. And from that point on, I sort of really fell in love with AR, and then found out about Spark AR and how I could sort of blend the creative and the digital world together. And since then, I've just been making AR non-stop, really. So today I was going to talk about a few of my favorite filters. I couldn't really pick one favorite, so I've sort of categorized them into different types of filters that I like to make. So the first category, I have funny filters here. These are probably my favorite to make because I don't really like to take myself too seriously. Of course, I started as a games programmer and there's a lot of programming skills involved in that, but I really do like using different assets and creating really like funny experiences for people to use and to share with their friends. So as you can see, this first one here is sort of a play on what we used to do as kids, where we would maybe put a bed sheet over the top half of our face and draw eyes on our chin and record little funny videos. And the QR codes are all there as well if you guys want to try them out. And this second one is something I think we've all seen too many times, and not many of us really enjoy seeing them, but it's like one of those tests to prove that you're not a robot or whatever, where you can select all the squares that normally would be traffic lights or cars, but with this one you can tap the screen and you can change it and just have fun with that. And this third filter here is probably just playing a bit on my English humor, is just essentially one big pun, saying I'm a big fan. But in this, obviously, you literally are just a big fan. So this was probably one of the quickest filters I ever made, but still one of my favorites. My next category is client games. Obviously, starting in games programming, I've made mobile games and different web games and things like that. So that is something that I try to integrate in my filter making a little bit, and it's something that I find clients are looking for quite a lot. So this first filter here is for a client called the S Thing, who has essentially branded that S that we all used to draw as kids. And in this game, you have a time limit, and you have to draw the S, fill in the lines in the time limit. And what I really like about this filter is, well, two things really. I really like the little particle effect that comes off the nose while you're drawing, almost like chalk. And then the second thing, which you can't see in this demo video, but once the time is up, there's a quick freeze frame of your final drawing. And I think because the time is so short, you're normally rushing right at the end, and it finishes with quite a funny freeze frame. So I really like that. And this second one was actually, I think, the second ever filter I ever made. It was for my friend's company at the time, who had an indoor archery business. So the concept is really simple. You just have to time the shot to try and get the highest score. And looking back now, knowing that this was my second filter and how complex it was, I'm quite proud of it looking back on it. Unfortunately, the company is not in business anymore, so that filter isn't actually live at the moment. But maybe in the future I'll post it to my account. Maybe, we'll see. So my third category here are the competition filters. I've only entered 2 competitions, but I think it's really great that the community are doing a lot of competitions. I think it's gives a lot of people inspiration and perhaps makes people create filters that they wouldn't normally make. This first filter is inspired sort of by Banksy and different graffiti artists and stuff like that. And it's a simple tap to jump game where you have to avoid different enemies and you have to collect sort of the smiley faces at the top. This one actually placed in second, so I was really proud of that. And then this second filter was for the most recent CreatAR competition. The idea behind this is that it uses ground detection, where you can place a door in your environment and then a random sort of style or effect is applied to the camera view through the door. So what I really like about this is obviously there's no effect around the outside, but as you move through, the whole world is affected in that way. And another thing I really like is looking back on the door and then seeing the real world environment there. So I think that's a really cool effect, and I was quite proud of that as well. So I actually wanted to take a quick moment to roughly show you guys in CreatAR how this effect actually works. So I have a really simple setup here where I have a plane tracker, I have my scene, and I have this room here. So if I just hide the occluders, you can actually see the room in full view here. So I have the floor, the roof, left wall, right wall, back wall, and then the front left, front right, and the front middle. And as you can see, I leave a small gap here where there are no planes. And this essentially is the door. Now, if I make the occluders visible again, these occluders here are just hiding the front of the room. And again, you can see I leave that small gap for the door. And then in the patch editor, I'm taking this object, the scene, running it through the scene render pass, the shader render pass, just so I can unpack it. And then I'm taking the camera texture and I'm using the alpha of this scene shader render pass and applying that alpha to the camera texture and then applying that to a material. So this is where I would have added all the black and white effects and rainbow effects and other things like that. Just for this demo, I've just made it green. And then here you can see the door. So basically how it works is once the user has placed the environment on the ground using the plane tracker, they are able to just walk forward to the door. And then you can see here in the render pass, as it gets closer, they just walk forward. And as you get through there, then the whole area is affected. So it's actually a really simple effect. And then there's the reverse side of the door. So that essentially is how it works. So you can have a quick look at that there. Really simple effect. And then once you get this sort of base layer down, you can add as many effects to it as you want. So with the final project, I added some interaction, so the user has to place the door first. Then they're prompted to tap the sign to randomize. So if I move a little bit closer here, you can see when I press the button, you get that animation there, and it cycles through all the different effects that you can see. So this one is the vintage room, where it's a simple black and white effect, but then on top of that, I've added some scratches in a sort of animation sequence just to create that old vintage TV style look, or perhaps like a film camera, maybe it's more like that. And then if we go random again, this is the pop art effect. So really, once you have that base layer down, you can really do whatever you want. And then it's not the most crazy patch editor I've ever seen or I've ever made, but this is essentially all that was needed to create that final effect. So hopefully that gives everyone a little bit of inspiration, and they can make an effect similar. This effect actually uses the LiDAR camera, so it uses the depth camera, sorry. So you can see different effects on different surfaces depending on how close or far away it is from the camera. So that's cool. Now jumping back into the presentation. This next one is filters that I've made with my brother. So my brother is an artist. His name's Tom. He's actually 5 years older than me, and he's always been a big inspiration to me. He's extremely creative, and I'm more of the tech guy. He's more of the creative guy. So it's always fun when we get to work together. This is the first thing we ever made. It's an AR poster, just using image detection. Once the image is recognized, then it plays an animation on top. And what's cool about this effect is, as you can see, some of the animation goes outside the bounds of the poster. So I think that's quite cool. And then obviously you can scan this QR code here, and then here's the image target on the left. So if you want to try the effect out for yourself, you can do that. And then this one on the right is our most recent project. So essentially, we share a studio space together, me and my brother. And in this unused corner of our studio, we really didn't know what to do with it. So we decided we would make a really small gallery space for other residents in our studio to display their work. So this work here is done by someone named Joss Whittle, who actually built this section of the gallery for us. And then using Polycam, I did a sort of 3D scan of the environment, and then a really simple filter after that. I had to reduce the polygons a little bit, but after that, it's a really simple effect where you're just using plane tracking again, and then you can place this environment anywhere. So essentially, it's a gallery that can be viewed anywhere at any time. And this is real scale as well, using the real scale template from CreatAR. So as you walk through, you see all the art in its glory at the real size, and then you have these little information cards on the side, which Joss wrote just a few bits of information about his work. So he's so far the only artist who is displayed in that gallery, but we're looking for more people just so they can display their work. It's not limited to the people that share this studio space with us. It's really open to anyone who wants to share their work and let basically anyone view it anywhere. So that's something I really want to focus on in the future. And then the final slide is I think it's my favorite filter. It's once again really simple. I really like making simple filters that users can just use really easily and quickly, and they have no trouble using. And it's just a rap name generator. So once you start recording, it'll cycle through loads of different names. You get one sort of name at the start and one at the end. And then here you can see as well Jesse J using my filter, which was a really cool experience as well. I wasn't expecting that. And just to add like a little bit of excitement, I had this CD case appear at the end, and using the delay frame patch in CreatAR, it takes a screenshot essentially once the name is decided, once the countdown happens, and it will freeze that face, put it onto the CD, so it's acting like a CD cover. You have the final name there, and then there's a random effect, like a visual effect, that's applied to the CD cover each time. So sometimes it's black and white, sometimes it's posterized. So just to add that little bit of interest rather than just having the name at the top, it might be a little bit boring. And that is all the filters I wanted to show you. So just to quickly talk about the future of the work that I want to do, I think essentially I really enjoy working with different artists. I think especially artists that perhaps wouldn't have thought of an Instagram filter as a medium or a platform for their work, and perhaps don't consider themselves the most techie person. So I really like to work with them to be that bridge into creating AR effects, whether it's using plane tracking or image tracking to make posters that come to life. I really want to do that in the future and work with as many artists as possible and make posters and really cool things like that. I think another area I like to work a bit more in is sort of the sport industry. Um, I really enjoy sports personally, so I'm a big football fan, a big tennis fan. So I think the dream filter for me would be making a filter for Wimbledon or something like that, something, or for like a big football team like Man United or anything like that. I think would be really cool. So that's hopefully in the future for me, hopefully not too far away. Um, so obviously I had that prior knowledge from university, but I was using more Unity and C sharp coding and things like that. And then once I found SparkAR, it was really a lot of exploration at the start. There wasn't a lot of resources out there. There weren't too many people creating effects as far as I knew. So it was a lot of exploration, a lot of just having fun with it. I think at the time I was actually working at Subway. So once my day making sandwiches finished, I had no other responsibilities really. So it was just into SparkAR, just experimenting, making whatever I wanted. And then after that was when I really found the SparkAR community in Facebook, and that was really, really helpful. I mean, there's so many good resources on there. Everybody's so nice, and if you have a question, you can just put it on there, and yeah, you'll get maybe 3 or 4 people coming up with different answers that you can test until you find something that works for you. So the community is great. I think when I started to take it a little bit more seriously, I found a course on Udemy that probably most people have done now. So that helped me with some of the fundamentals of making Instagram effects and just creating that more professional look to it. And then as I found more and more clients, I was approached by a studio in Paris called Atomic. And that's really when my career changed. I mean, these guys make the best filters out there. And so I've done a little freelance work for them. They have a whole studio of 3D artists and 2D artists and sound design. And it's, they've got some huge clients like Lacoste and Jean-Paul Gaultier and Prada and things like that. So I was working freelance with them. And that was when I got to get my hands on some really amazing SparkAR projects. And they've got, really good developers there that I could go to for help during the early days, and they would give me amazing advice. And so that was really a big turning point in my career when I sort of took this more seriously and sort of went professional with it. And fortunately I don't work at Subway anymore, so that's good. So yeah, that's where most of the learning came from, really, just through others in the community and through online resources, really.